Hi, welcome to Mystic Mamas. I'm Shelly and this is Mariah. Hey, Mariah.
Hello. We are going to talk about
Uh,
Dogma today,
yeah.
the movie and the movement. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we streamed Dogma for movie night before Christmas on Anarchist Collective open mic night, and we thought it'd be a good idea to do a deep analysis about it, especially since there's a lot of talk about Loki in the news, right? And Loki is one of the main characters. Ben Affleck plays Loki, one of the fallen angels that is trying to get back into heaven. They're trying to trick God, and aren't we all? I think a lot of people are trying to trick God. There's a lot of rules here that we don't know about. We're kind of in like a celestial, spiritual realm that not everybody has the same laws to abide by. Yeah. As far as angels, the different choirs of angels, humans, and all those that work in this spiritual battle with God and against God, the opposite, Lucifer and Satan or whoever, right? So we definitely have a lot of fallen angels in our history, and so this movie's kind of about it. I love Kevin Smith movies, and this is actually one of my favorites. But we always have like the James and Bob are usually in these movies, right? That's like they're always like the ones going through the journey. And in this movie, they're the prophets. There's some prophets, which is funny. They're there to save the
Yeah.
day. Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
let's get into it.
Dogma has been one of my favorite movies since it came out. It's pretty. I think it's a pretty deep movie. It's pretty philosophical. It gets into religion, but it also gets into like just cultural stuff and just how society works. And there's a lot of pop culture stuff involved in it too. I mean, it was made in 1998, released in 1999. That was a really interesting time for movie making.
It was a good like I want to say a peak of something like this. These these topics that they played with really good actors and like before all the AI and like all the all the extra features that we didn't need. But it's yeah, this one's really good because dogma goes like religion. We're just like ending the age of Pisces, coming into age of Aquarius, and so religion has been a big part of what has shaped our lives and our history and where we're at today. Where we're at even in North America. So this one's really good because it brings in a lot of yeah, and they always have like really good actors who Kevin Smith finds like the best actors, and it touches on like especially during this time humans were like are we alone in the universe, it was a lot of like this isolation like mentality, you know, with like hello, is anybody out there, we were like the idea was we're alone in the universe, it's bleak, what's the point type of thing, religion's dumb, God is dead, and then there was like
Well,
go ahead.
um, I mean, Generation X and the 90s was all about like existentialism. It was, the end of it was right after the Cold War, and it was like, what now? You know?
Yeah, and a lot of us, like, we're still like, I got confirmed. We got to go to church every Sunday. But like, I was always like the person like asking the questions because like, if this is the religion, I want to know. I want to know this religion inside out and like all the other ones. So I became a theologian, and they're all fucking wrong, same at the same time. There's good stuff though. Instead of like absolutely like denying all of this information, I started looking at it differently and like it's useful. And if you look at it more into like a like esoteric type of like approach, it's so fucking then it starts making sense. And then you can actually utilize all this information to your benefit, like to find your and know that their spiritual battle is there. It's definitely there. As we
I
have
mean,
like
the
monarchy.
the whole movie is about, the journey of the soul from, having a crisis of faith, knowing God, and then having a crisis of faith. And through suffering, you find that faith again. And you see it in all the characters. I think, or at least most of the characters. You see it in the angels. You see it in Bethany. I mean, you even see it in some of the secondary characters.
And it's funny, is like Jay and Silent Bob, um, they always kind of say consistent though. They kind of say the same no matter which movie and like what they're going through. They do like, oh, and they always have like really interesting insightfulness. But like they kind of like are one of the only constants. Like they're like more so than any other characters. And as far as like the soul's journey, especially um having to like doubt and be like tested your faith, right? And then coming back to it. Anyway, even the angels, like they like, oh, beautiful God is here. Uh and they like cry, they start weeping because they know like they're angels. They know God is real and they know the power and they know that like are trying to betray him because there's laws. There's still laws of the universe. And so it's really interesting that angels and humans, we have free will to an extent. And so there's a lot there, the frustration with the limitations. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like free will is one thing, but even the angels, they don't have free will.
Well, you know, the whole thing with God sending Loki and Bartleby to Wisconsin when you know they because they don't understand why God was giving the humans special treatment. And it is like God didn't do that as a punishment. God sent the angels to earth so the angels would understand why God gave humans special treatment because they don't know God like the angels. The angels have a knowing. The angels know. But humans don't have that knowing.
We have
Humans
to
have to have the
our free
faith.
will, we come to it. We
Yes.
come to it free will. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know God through knowing. They know God through faith. So and the angels don't understand pain on a human level and the existentialism and the short lifespan and suffering that humans go through and that disconnection from God. So sending the angels to Wisconsin is actually teaching them a lesson as far as like I give them this attention because they they're small. They don't have all the powers that you don't they don't have everything available to them that you do. They go through all this suffering and they have these short lifespans and they have to know me through faith and through their lives rather than, being in my direct presence. They have to feel my presence through faith.
Yeah, and denying faith is different than denying, your employer. you know, when you know what's going on. No, that's a really, really good point. And so I think just to like if you're eternal and you're always like, serving, everybody gets bored, And so regardless if you're an angel or not, like, sometimes they're like, I want to like see what the boundaries really are. And same with like people really get into yogi like traditions or the Hindus getting into like the monks really, really getting into what are the limitations of the human body when you can expand, like level up, where they're getting mummified because they are barely in their body. They're like meditating so much. And so it's it makes sense that why even angels would fall just to like see what the boundaries are, what they can get away with. And same with humans sometimes, we don't know the
Well, it's
different.
like even in Christianity they call it like, or the Abrahamic religions, some other religions too. They see it as God casting these beings down to earth to punish them, but it's really if you go by like the reincarnation and like the soul's journey aspect, like perspective of it, is not so much that they're cast down to earth, but they're they go to Earth to either learn lessons or to be guides in
Yeah.
this realm,
Yeah. And
and
so
it's not a
again, like it's just like
punishment.
another chance, all right.
Yeah.
Guys are
So
bad.
how about I play the clip of the loophole? Metatron explaining the loophole.
Oh yeah, totally. And like
Has
what's awesome
clued
too
to
is
me.
like especially very strict Jew rules, right? They're like, oh, on Saturday we can't really make coffee, but like they're always like looking for loopholes. Like
Well, I
it's
mean,
like
there's
make
the
rules
Catholics
just
with the
so you
fish on
find
Friday
ways
thing.
around them.
Well, it's I mean the Muslims have it. They have their own stuff.
We all do.
Christians have it. Like yeah, they all have it,
Rules are
and
meant to
it's
be
like the fish
broken
on
just to
Friday
see
and
if it
stuff.
matters.
But when you actually look into why religions have the rules that they have, it's because of like energetic stuff. Like the thing about the different fabrics for the different types of clothing is because different fabrics hold different frequencies and different energies.
And that makes sense too.
And
Yeah.
mixing those two different things could cause an energetic imbalance in your spirit.
And they seem it's kind of like these like very like old fashioned strict, but like again when you said the fabrics, linen is is used a lot and they mention it, right? But linen has a different energetic frequency and you heal faster if you are in a bed with linen sheets than if you have polyester. So the more organic fabrics you use, the more different energetic frequencies. Absolutely. So it
And
matters.
it also has to do with like the weave and just like the composition of the fabric and how breathable it is. And the more breathable the fabric, the more the energy exchange can happen. It's like skyclad. Going skyclad for rituals is because you don't have that barrier. So the
Mhm.
closest you can get to the energy of nature and God would be naked. So
Oh, hell yeah.
you're fully receptive. So the lighter the
Mhm.
clothing and the looser the weave and certain types of fabric means that it's going as naked as you can, energetically as you can without being nude.
I mean, Jesus always is like portrayed in like his linen white, right? Um,
Yeah.
and there's
Well,
yeah.
even the different the frequencies of the different colors, that
Oh, totally. And so with
yeah.
Kundalini classes with yoga, a lot of times they're wearing like all white because white you can absorb and you can let your aura shine through. But if you're out going into battle and you're a wizard or a witch and like people like ninja, like people wear black, not just like so they're not so they can't you can't see them or because it's like a darker energy, but it also protects your aura at that point. So a white armor, you're either letting your aura shine through and go through that color or your energy field. Great points. All right, I'll let you play
Okay.
this clip.
Someone has clued them in to a loophole in Catholic dogma that would allow them to re-enter heaven.
So what? They beat the system. Good for them.
It's not that simple. If they get in, they will have reversed God's decree. Now, listen closely, because this bit's very important. Existence, in all its form and splendor, functions solely on one principle. God is infallible. To prove him wrong would undo reality and everything that is. Up would become down, black would become white. Existence would become nothingness, in essence. If they're allowed to enter that church, they'll unmake the world.
If this is so major, why are you talking to me? Why doesn't God do something about it?
He could, but he'd rather see you take care of this one personally,
Why me?
because of who you are.
And who am I?
The girl in the PJs, don't ask so many questions, just serve your purpose.
I'm gonna have to pass.
I beg your pardon?
when some quiet little infection destroyed my uterus? Where was God? When my husband decided he couldn't be with a wife who couldn't bear his children, where was God? To hell with him.
Don't allow eons of history and life to get blinked out of being just because you got a grudge against your creator. So you lost the ability to make life. You're being offered the chance to play mother to the world by acting like one and protecting it, saving it. But I can't make you. However, if you should decide to stop being selfish and accept your responsibility, you won't be alone. You'll have support.
What? More angels?
Prophets, in a manner of speaking. 2 of them. The one who speaks, and he will, at great length, whether you want him to or not, will mention of himself as a prophet. Well, he's the call-out type.
Well, I should be going. Thanks for the rescue, I think.
Wait a second. We just saved your ass and you're just gonna take off. What the shit is that?
I had a really weird night last night, and tonight's not shaping up to be any better. I think I should go home, take some Percocets, and lay down.
Now how about that shit? Fuck this town, man. I'm going back to Jersey and starting up the business again. I could kick the shit out of little kids in Red Bank and make myself a profit.
Prophets. 2 of them.
You know what I'm saying, son? Fuck a
You gotta be kidding me. Well,
Ooh, good call on the prophet part. Like the prophet,
Yeah.
prophet.
So yeah, I find it funny. I mean, this was made in 1998, released in 99. So this is like I had so many friends still do that are like a lot like Jay and Silent Bob, and
Me too.
it's like, you know, if there were prophets these days, if there was going to be any prophets, there would be some smart ass stoners. And knowing our crowd, like the people we personally know, like they're smart. They're a bunch of smart ass stoners, but they're smart and they know what's going on, so you never fucking know. I mean, out of all the people you could think of, who would you think would be a prophet these days?
Exactly. And it's on earth is hard
It
too,
seems
especially if
really
they're here,
suitable.
like drugs aren't always available, cigarettes, whatever. Any of that isn't it's not in the angelic realm the same. So I think a lot of people that are like earth angels we have to medicate to be here, or-
So, I did have a thought about the whole um lead thing in the movie, which is it, there are a couple stoners, and in it out because of what Barnaby and Loki did. They went
because you're
and did
drinking
some
bad
jerk shit.
spirits.
Yeah. So I noticed on the train scene when the group meets Bartleby and Loki that Loki is smoking weed with Jay and Silent Bob, and he's able to smoke weed, but they can't drink alcohol. Meaning
Right.
that
Well, smoking weed too is associated with uh I'm sorry, the Hindu not Shakti, the other one. Shiva, Lord Shiva. He was known to be the first to smoke and take cannabis to enlighten that part of his brain to open up the third eye. So that's interesting. Yeah,
so it makes it even more suitable that the prophets are a couple of stoners. And if you so you
Gone to
watched
God. Gone to gods are real.
yeah, you've listened to Kathy O'Brien talking about MK Ultra and how they would like ply them with all types of drugs, but they wouldn't. They kept them away from the pot, and how cannabis will actually deprogram you.
Yes, that's why there's such like a big like war on it for so long.
Yeah,
They thought they
this
could.
was made in the 90s. I mean that's pretty amazing.
And this is
that
1999. So,
yeah,
so, um, in 1999 at New Year's, like this time of year, right? We had the Y2K. I remember going to a house party. I'm a senior in high school. We're all like, ah, but again, here we have like this situation where our technology is changing and like, oh, I don't know if that will like, like Macintosh, all these old IO like systems, they're like are being they're obsolete. They're becoming obsolete. Um, and it's just funny, like remember you guys remember like how many people are like freaking out and getting like ready because like the whole like in 1999, like I made my first website in like 98. Like they thought like, dude, we're just getting started with the internet. Let it ride before it ruins everything. But yeah, I thought
Angel
that was
Fire.
time before
Remember the
midnight.
Angel Fire websites?
Yeah, Angel right? Angel Fire websites. Oh my God.
Yeah, they were full
Absolutely.
of ads,
Angel
but
Fire.
you got free websites.
Well, and back then it was all about websites. It was like everybody's .com, right? And then it was like, oh, we don't make money from websites just by having a website. No, man. In technological rush
Yeah.
for sure. But so that was like when it came out, and like, I mean, it was a perfect time to come out. Even when people are just like kind of denying their church and their faith a little bit, like a lot of Generation X, and I was, that was like the turn of the millennium in 1999, 2000. And it's one of the best quotes from the movie. Rufus says this: "You can change an idea, changing belief is trickier." Really is, really is, and it's a great point. I mean, Dogma. Even now, people are like, "Oh, something's bad." They look to Big Brother. They look to Big Daddy, right? Well, the government will. Won't they do something? Won't somebody do something? You know, everybody's been like dogmented, right? Programmed into believing that something else will take care of it. Like there's something bigger going on, but they're not like you can't look to everything outside of you to be in charge, right? So this like control was always external. Even today, like I would argue with people, even as a kid, having to go to church, like the Holy Ghost, right? The Trinity, Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. I'm like, so what's this Holy Ghost? Like the explanations I always thought were like really, really weird. I'm like, I think it's our soul. My mom's like, no. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's you. Nah. Like, okay, so you just let some weird ghost come and live in you? Well, that's fucked up, with the Christ consciousness, right? So it's like this. There was never an understanding of what spirituality really was, you know. And then everybody believing in these Bible stories where it's all magic, all these magical, crazy things happen, but like in modern times, magic and having superhero powers or clairvoyance is a no. It's only happened in the past in the one Bible when everybody else used to be magical. It's so fucked up. Oh, excuse me. And I added this picture because it's like the Michelangelo Sistine
Yeah, oh,
Chapel.
yeah, yeah.
E.T. came out in what 83, and again you have
I,
E.T. with like sort of um, with the human energy of like God giving Adam, the spark of life and the wisdom.
so okay, you know how back to that clip, how you know Metatron was explaining that the Catholics created a loophole to undo all of creation.
Hmm.
I don't think it was a loophole. I think okay, so
You overlooked it.
if no, if God created everything, God is omniscient, knows all, and can see into all times, lines, and past, present, and future, then God knew that by sending them to Earth and giving them the ability to turn into humans.
They would want to go back home.
Exactly. So the only way they could go back home was to become human and fully understand what it is to be human, and that way they can go back to God. That I that's how I got to the conclusion that I explained earlier. It was a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. And if
And it also
someone in
represents
Wisconsin, they'll definitely want to go home after that. But I mean,
yeah, and it also represents the reincarnation cycle. You know, they're souls from another plane that come down to Earth and they live as humans, and then they have to die as humans to return to where they came from.
and that's sort of like
And
the
that's
idea
what it truly is to be human.
of ascending. If you ascend up into the God realm or as an angel, eventually I think you have to come down to die in order to truly allow your soul to ascend into the next. Otherwise, you're kind of bypassing it or maybe putting it off.
And that's a perfect time to play the death and reversing of God.
Yeah. So you want to go? Okay, Lawson.
I hope you're the skee ball type.
Oh, Bartleby. Was Wisconsin really that bad?
Bow down, stupid!
Anyone who isn't dead or from another plane of existence would do well to cover their ears right about now.
What the fuck?
So yeah, I think that's a pretty profound scene in that movie. Um, it's it's the reincarnation cycle. It's the death and rebirth of God, which is in every every religion and spiritual path. There is a death and rebirth of God. I mean, yeah, it's a seasonal cycle too. It's the yearly cycle of Earth. You know, the sun dies in the winter and it's reborn in the spring. And then you have the voice of God thing, and that goes into all the frequency stuff. Um, and the just the healing stuff, and you've got the death and rebirth of the angels and can really be dug into, I think.
Well, and like they want to go home, and they like he's like, I'm sorry, I betrayed like these rules, and he like repents and like there's like that It's like that deep, like longing, wanting to go home and like not, like being so sorry. But so it's great too. Alanis Morissette, like especially at that time, I was like, well, everybody knows God is a woman. Like it was all like this, like women's movement, which is good because God is a woman and like and not, it's all the things. But as a creator, whatever who gives life is that feminine energy anyway, right? So it would make sense, like it'd be like sort of like this mother energy that they would want to go home to. And so it's yeah, it's nice. It's beautiful because like they get to go home, they um and they portray like even if you go against something, um we're human or angels or fallen angels. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And the fact that they have that they have angel wings. A lot of people don't think that real angels have wings, but that's like the best way to portray them. And I feel at some point I may have had wings, but there's also bird people coming down. So anyway, I could keep rambling on. What I like is they have like the Jesus where he's like got the thumbs up in this movie.
Oh,
And
Buddy Christ.
yeah, Buddy Christ. Everybody likes Buddy Christ. And throughout our recent human history, Jesus has been portrayed like this, as this white man with a beard. But he's always kind of has like gives you some hand gang signs. And why does he? And he has like this flaming heart with barbed wire around it. And throughout time, I was like, this can't be Jesus. Who the fuck is this guy? Apparently, I've looked into it. Like this portrait of Jesus that we've been looking at for the past couple hundred years, is it's based off of his image is based off of a bastard child of like one of these popes of Vatican. And they're like, well, nobody knows who that guy is. So like they basically made this unknown, like unclaimed bastard child of this cardinal. Like so everybody always sees Jesus like the two fingers up, right? This is also in tarot. As above, so below. You see the Baphomet have that. So it's really interesting. And I love that they have the buddy Jesus, but like this image of Jesus, like apparently it's false and it's really kind of weird as fuck. I don't know. I've always thought it was weird. What do you think?
Well, uh, the two fingers pointing up is something esoteric, and I can't remember what it is.
What's it usually too like as above, so below? So even on my magician tarot card number one, as above, so below. And he's always got the two. The Baphomet is usually I don't know why there's balloons. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
Did I do a hand gesture that means balloons? That was interesting. Yeah, so this is like a false image of Jesus. Who the fuck knows what he may have looked like if this was a real man, right? But this one's always been like a false one, and it's whatever. That's Jesus. That's how we know him. That's how he shows
Well,
up.
I mean, even in early Christian artwork, Jesus had long hair and brown hair, lighter skin. Um,
That's always
like if
fine,
you
but
look into
his heart's always
if
on
you
him,
look at
like on
if you look
fire.
into the if you look into the old Byzantium artwork, he looks like that. But as far as like the specific Jesus that we know, yeah, it was based on somebody. I mean, that's what they did a lot back in the day, is that these people commissioned these rich, powerful people commissioned religious artwork, and they wanted to be used as models for the artwork. So that's how we end up with the iconography that
Like
yeah.
with the photographer, or like the
That was a
paparazzi.
commission.
This is his photo shoot. Like, and so like it's really interesting, like where like some of these images come from, and like so, I like bobblehead. Jesus like in his car, and he just like goes crazy. It's just hilarious. He's like, oh, when I get pulled over, they love the bobblehead Jesus. It's like it's your buddy Jesus.
Okay, so here is the meaning of the two fingers pointing up. Is the two fingers of the left hand signify the two natures in Christ, human and divine, and the other three fingers together signified the Holy Trinity. That's what that's what the two fingers being held up means.
So the buddy Jesus has like a thumbs up, pointed up, and then
Hey.
his finger is like kind of like eh. But yeah, a lot of times he has like always has like the two up for sure.
Yeah. I do have the clip of the buddy introducing Buddy Christ too. I think
Oh,
that's the
perfect.
last one. Oh no, that's not the last one. There's only one more after that, and that's Rufus talking about Jesus. So here's Buddy Christ.
Example, the crucifix. While it has been a time-honored symbol of our faith, Holy Mother Church has decided to retire this highly recognizable yet wholly depressing image of our Lord crucified. Christ didn't come to earth to give us the willies. He came to help us out. He was a booster. And it's with that take on our Lord in mind that we've come up with a new, more inspiring sigil. So it is with great pleasure that I present you with the first of many revamps the Catholicism Wow campaign will unveil over the next year. I give you the Buddy Christ. Now, that's not the sanctioned term we're using for the symbol, just something we've been kicking around the office. But look at it. Doesn't it pop?
So yeah, but so um that scene ties into Andy Warhol. First of all, there's the pop art in the background,
Yep, totally.
and then yeah, and then Andy Warhol had was there religion really played a big part of his life. He was Catholic. He was Polish and Catholic. Um, and his mother was very religious, and I just like that, of all things, the Buddy Christ was pop art, and it is a big shout out to Andy Warhol.
Well,
Yeah.
and then George
See,
Carlin, who's playing the Pope, and he's wearing black and red, so he's playing the black Pope. He he's not the holy. He's not wearing the white. He's playing the black Pope, and he's obviously Jewish. I love George Carlin, and even basically the entire cast. But he's representing that black nobility, the dark side of the
so
force.
as far as like the Buddy Christ thing goes, like I think it's more appropriate than having him on a cross, because when you go look into the teachings of Jesus, he was basically an anarchist hippie.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I hate going. I mean, I really go into these Catholic churches anymore. When you go in and they just have a huge cross and somebody's sacrificed and dead, and this is like that's okay. If I only have one image of me remaining, I'd rather it be like this Buddy Christ, not me dead on a cross. Like they're worshiping it like a dead body, the image of a dead body. Like that's fucked up, right? They're gonna go up into their communion. No offense to any Christians or any of it, his body. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, that's that's not
Well,
the image
that's
I would want to
it's
remain.
that's the whole transmutation thing, though. It's
It's morbid.
not a literal thing. It's basically taking in Christ's energy into your own body and becoming Christ yourself. That's the whole point of communion.
Yeah, like Christ consciousness, right? And like
Yeah.
you dying on your own cross is you like kind of killing that the ego and but still, right? Like Buddy Christ to me is better
Uh,
than dead Christ on the
Yeah. Well, the body of Christ is the spiritual bread, and the blood of Christ is the spiritual wine. So bread and wine give you physical sustenance. So the body of Christ and the blood of Christ would give you spiritual sustenance.
well, even embodying the Christ consciousness, right? Like that's
Yeah.
and plasma runs through our blood. And so that's really like the Christ consciousness where you open up your heart chakra. You open up your heart chakra and then you can start elevating into higher consciousness. And so you're absolutely right, like that it's not literal, but people do take it very literal. And I just like this image better, Buddy Christ instead of
Yeah.
Christ death.
And yeah, and this ties into Rufus describing what Christ was like.
What's he like?
He likes to listen to people talk. Christ loved to sit around the fire and listen to me and the other guys. You know, whenever we were going on about unimportant shit, he always had a smile on his face. His only real beef with mankind is the shit that gets carried out in his name. War. Big idea and building a belief structure on it.
You're saying having beliefs is a bad thing?
I just think it's better to have ideas. I mean, you can change an idea. Changing a belief is trickier. People die for it. People kill for it. The whole of existence is in jeopardy right now because of the Catholic belief structure regarding this plenary indulgence bullshit. Bartleby and Loki, whether they know it or not, are exploiting that belief. And if they're successful, you, me, all of this ends in a heartbeat, all over a belief.
Yeah, so I love that scene because it's like when you get past all the dogma around the Christian church, you get rid of all the dogma, surrounding the Bible and stuff, and the rituals and stuff. Like the story of Jesus, that's basically what the story of Jesus is. He was a cool guy. He wanted to talk to all different types of people. He didn't discriminate. He wanted to connect with everybody, hear everybody's story, and teach everybody, about spiritual ascension, and wanted to help, and fuck the government. I
Yeah,
added
and
that part myself.
I feel a lot of people run with like what they think this this man or this movement or their religion is about, to where it like being a theologian and looking into occult knowledge and looking into it in a different way, and really looking at the stories and what like they might be, even looking like, oh, this part might be about astrology, this part these guys are wizards. If you look at it like from our open-minded perspectives, you start to actually like see the actual facts. You start to see what the fucking stories are about. And so I like this gift, just because I've gone to church my whole life. I've never heard of Rufus, the 13th apostle. She's gone to church, but did she fucking look into why she's going there, or what the religion really is? And so that's like most religions. That's most anything. People run with what they think the ideas or what they've been told, and like won't budge or being open minded about anything else, which is crazy because it's not even, it's like reading Shakespeare, the Bible, like it's so I like this because it's like, well, I've never heard of this stuff. And yeah, nobody heard of Enoch either, or Metatron. Nobody's heard of Jubilee, and all these missing parts, and that's the ignorant part of Christianity.
Yeah, it's you go there was a long time where you went, for centuries, and or however long you went to church, you didn't know how to read. Everything was in Latin, so you went to church to listen to a priest talk in Latin. You didn't understand Latin, so you never a lot of people were just they didn't know much about the religion, the religion that they were practicing.
And they're not even trying to make interesting. Sometimes, for sure, you go to like a Baptist church, like they're singing and dancing. It totally depends, right? But it's so stale, and like nobody's even getting the messages anymore. They're just like, don't sin, like pay your taxes and put money
Yeah.
in the offering, and just do what we're supposed to without really looking into it. So I thought it was crazy that I was supposed to truly believe in all of this when I didn't know all the information. And every time I went to church, I was made to feel worse about myself. So I was like, this kind of sucks. So I looked into it, and that's why you really like start to appreciate it again, where you can come back to your faith, come back to this when you like defame it. Maybe we all did at one point. But then coming back to it, just like the characters in Dogma, the movie, right? Where they want to go back home. They like fuck heaven, fuck this shit. And we want to go down to earth, and like we want to have free will too. Then they want to go home. They want to go home to their religion. But they explored it. They explored what it really means. And coming back to their faith with a knowing is more powerful than just like blindly believing it or testing it, So that's why I like this movie. Even the angels wanted to test it. Like, is this even fucking real? Yeah.
Well, even as humans, probably in Loki, they experience the love of God more as humans, and because they they experience forgiveness as humans from God than they would have as angels.
Right. Because now they've like humbled themselves to where, I mean, we are not perfect. We can't, because we get to walk on that line. But if you learn the lessons of, oh, that wasn't the right choice, that wasn't nice, then you're growing and learning. If you just are supposed to always be a certain way and you don't even know why, and you don't even like know the consequences, if you did it, wouldn't you want to know? What if people like, oh, everyone knows the earth is flat, so why even go over there? You know, like that's why people explore, like, am I sure? Curiosity is very important. I think like if you think you know everything, you are blindsiding yourself and you are setting yourself up for disaster. And you're not. You have to be open and learn that there's so much more to it because it's spirituality. And I think this is the lesson I've finally gathered. Like, know thyself, know who you are, and also have your own personal relationship with the divine. Oh, why is this? Why are these old men telling me what God is to me, and that like, like judging me for my certain sins? They don't know what's going on. It's fucked up. Even like pastors, I would go go home and like I would go to church with my mom, and he would like still be like, well, maybe one day you will learn to love Christ like your mom and your brother have. Whispers that into my ear. I'm like, first I'm like, how do you know I don't have that relationship? They don't go to your Lutheran fucking bullshit church. Like, you didn't make it fun. You don't even like the cartoons because they have magic in it. Even though your Bible is all about magic, right? So like, I was challenging, but they just assume people assume that you don't have a relationship with the divine. You have to have a label. It's so fucked up, right? It's fucked up. It divides people. Who the fuck else is gonna tell me what God is to me? Why would I say that? That is the problem right there. You have to have your own personal relationship divide and your own spiritual path. Yes, you
Well,
can look to religion as a guide, but that is not the only way.
yeah, and you compare, you know, the lives of like St. Jane, Silent Bob, and Bethany, and the better characters in the the good characters in the story, and they all have something that they go through before they attain, their spiritual gnosis. But then you got the boardroom scene. In comparison, rich, comfortable men are doing the most degenerate things, and they're so far from God, and that's why they he rains justice down on them.
No, absolutely. That like nobody's perfect. Even the earth angels here, look at Constantine, like usually dark. It could be like a dark, and I'm assuming dark, kind of a dark melancholy type of like feeling because the evil that can be here, right? So like when I started waking up at a young age, I was like, what's the fucking point? Like we have to be slaves or go to a job. Like you got like this is so dumb, right? But I'm like, obviously, like I could take this life and like do with it what I will, and like that's just like some shit that we have to do to fit in and keep it going. But then so a lot of times as they wake up, they will have that stage of melancholy, right? Like black pilling, you might call it. And so I've always looked at religion for most of my younger years with that melancholy, like kind of like assholey perspective. Then I've come back to it in a different way, knowing that there's so much you can do when you when you look past all the dogma, all the bullshit, all the indoctrination. Then it's a whole wide world that you could do anything with. People have been taught that they are not the magicians of their own world, that only people in like the coats that know how to read exactly, like they would go to church, they're illiterate, so somebody would have to read the Bible to them, either in Latin or eventually English, spreading the Bible everywhere so they could teach.
And then the printing press was invented, and people would read books, and then all of a sudden they changed the Bible. They just totally rewrote it. They edited the shit out of it. Our the King James Bible is not the Bible that was being read in Latin in medieval churches. Uh, but the Bible has been edited so many times throughout history.
And the history books and so much where it's interesting that Latin is very used in like herbalism. So I'm learning Latin through herbalism more so than religion. But then now I see the transformation of this language, of the English language and the Latin, Celtic ruins and Sumerian cuneiform, very similar because it was used as far as control a little bit. But also at one point they didn't use the vowels. Have you noticed that? When you see like yes away or there's no vowels yet. Either they omitted them because they're more holy, or they hadn't included them in the language. I've talked about this a lot, I guess, on Poppy's Field Project, where the angles, right? English has angles, it's Anglo mixed with Saxon, and Gregorian, Germanic, all these different languages, but mostly it's because of the energetic frequency of letters with angles. It's angelic, it's Enochian. That's the Enochian language. So Enoch is actually part of this story in Dogma because Enoch is the human that was able to ascend, not die, and get a seat up at God's table as one of the higher ranks of the 9 choirs of angels. And
And he
that's
becomes the voice of God.
and the voice of God, because he can speak English, he can take that sound and put them into angles, put them into shapes, so that he can bring it
And
into the
then
3D.
th this goes into the effects of frequencies and the whole electric universe theory that everything is vibration and frequency and energy, and it's that's why the voice of God would kill a human, because it's the frequency of creation. It's the frequency of the source.
That Medusa energy, even my voice, my God, it's really loud, it's high, and it carries. So that's a weapon sometimes to me. It triggers people a little bit because of the resonance. I think for whatever reason, my brother, a lot of people in my family have a similar, and they get just as loud. The more everybody drinks, it gets really, really loud. Everyone shouts. But our voices can carry over a lot of land, over cows, and we're ranchers. Stuff like that's really interesting. But the book, the Bible, right? What does he do at the beginning? He spoke the world into existence. One, that's spell casting, that's magic. But also, like he spoke it, like the resonance, the frequency, the sound.
And that's why words are so powerful when they're spoken. Why the spoken word is so powerful is because every word has its own frequency and vibration to it, and even the tone of voice you use it in, and the intention behind your speech,
Mhm.
it all has its own like vibration to it. Like
Oh,
even the
wow.
same words spoken, by the same person, different situations in different ways, will
Mhm.
have like a slightly different vibration to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. A good example, this is like out there. When you take some helium, right? Everyone's voice goes up, sound like a
Yep, yep,
chicken. But what if you take some nitrous? It goes down.
yep.
It almost
Oh my God, you were the first person I ever heard talk about that without me mentioning it. That's so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've done that
that's pretty
before.
interesting to find out.
And you'll know which gas, you have inhaled depends on way high, is it really low?
Yeah.
Again, that's the range. And even so these characters, Selena, awesome. They have such great actors and actresses.
So
And she's
I
she's
love,
she's a muse.
yeah, I love that her name is Serendipity and she has a jewel on her third eye. Because serendipity is like, I would say that we call them downloads. Uh, Serendipity and like downloads are the same thing. Like where you just get an aha moment, you just get that idea. It's like the light bulb over your head. That's serendipity. And that's
Dipping
the
down into your
telepathic, yeah. And that's the connection to the Akashic records. That's the connection into the collective consciousness through the third eye. So
that
I
is the
just love
divine.
that whole character.
Yeah, that is the divine. And so our third eye, especially the chakra, it is connected to our brain, which is part of the molecular part of the brain. But our brain is matter and a lot of antimatter. Again, it's electric, just like electric universe. And so that third eye, you're getting up into the air and the ether, leaving those four main elements, get into that fifth one. And that's why that's when you meditate, that's you being able to see and be able to talk to the divine. Your crown chakra
I
creates your aura, and you're getting more like downloads straight from the cosmos. But this one is like talking to the divine, be able to see from the all, the eyes of the all.
I think a good way to think of the third eye is like a spiritual version of like an IR sensor on your phone.
I love it. Nice. Bring
Yeah,
it down. Yeah, bring it nice.
because it's just a sensor. You're just, the more clear your third and the more open your third eye is, the more you're receiving, the more you're putting out, because you are putting out as much as you're receiving. um to be perceived.
And like certain things actually calcify or open up your third eye more. Even like foods, herbs, practices. Um,
Medications.
yeah, colors, yeah. So like this like fluoride is said to calcify it more and shit, anything that's bad. But also
Yeah, cortisone does it.
and if people's third eye, if that part of the brain calcifies, they're not being able to project into that third eye realm and into being able to speak into the divine and into the all and into the Akashic records and be able to even like project your aura, because then you're being stuck in the lower chakras of your being. And I think that is the goal of some of these evil entities here, always like attacking our spiritual power as humans, because they know we have free will. They know we're superhuman, just like on this movie where the angels, like, they're a little jealous because humans are kind of special in some ways, for sure.
Well, the on the opposite end of that, psychedelic, they clear out your pineal gland, open up your third eye, while your brain is being hyperconnected. So not only are you receiving more information, you're also processing it with your whole entire brain at a hyper fast speed.
That's a great way to explain it. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's why people even like kind of go after psychedelics, is being able to open up that that power, that third eye a little bit more too. Wow. I mean, great way to describe it. Your brain giving you so much insightfulness. That's why some of the terms are like split open and melt, split open your brain and melt, which definitely can be fun. Sometimes you can't turn it off. And if you ever look into your own human design,
I know that.
you leads. So I have to do physical things. So I come down into my lower chakras. Anyway, get another tangent. Always start talking about chakras and astrology, but because it's all connected. Loki
I
and
mean, this is like I said, this movie is a gold mine. It's just there's so many layers to it.
it
Because
is
like
under
even the characters, not even all the characters are Christian, because the muses are not Christian. The muses are Greek. They're the daughters of Zeus. Their
Mhm.
inspiration.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, there's so much to this movie.
Oh God, yeah.
We could do like a part two at one point as well. And like the
Yeah,
best,
we'll probably have to do that.
always thought like the best actors. Still does. Always been a fan, and Dogma, man, like good job.
Oh,
And,
it's
and
my
the boys,
favorite
the
Kevin
boys
Smith
going to
movie
New
by far.
Jersey. You got to go to New Jersey where Clerks is. That's setting there. There's
Of
all the
all places for the world to end, it'd be New Jersey.
we started in Wisconsin. It's great too. I mean, I've started in North Dakota in this life, so there we go. So Loki and Bartleby, like Bartleby is a name you don't see as much. It could be associated with one of the 12 apostles. Loki has been in the news a lot, which I thought was interesting because Loki is the trickster, is kind of the man. There's so many names. The Black Angel of Death. He's usually the Grim Reaper. Could be. But in many ways too, he's like just like the other brother sometimes. What I've noticed, there's like Mario and Luigi. To me, Loki is Luigi. And even in the Celtic tree lore, right? We have the king, the Holly King, and the Oak King, and at the solstice they trade. And at this time of year as well, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. We talked a lot about that. Rules Capricorn. So right that cusp, like there's this transfer of who's ruling, and these are two huge planets that may have been huge stars, where they're, they've been denoted down to planets at this point in their life. They have a fuckload of moons, though, don't they? The Titans and the Olympians. So I mean, we talked about Betelgeuse and maybe Io, right? One of the moons of Jupiter in our last show. And so it's just like insane that it's always kind of like pulling from this mythology of the planets, our solar system, and the stars.
What I find really interesting is that the angel of death in Dogma is Loki, while there's another character that's demon called Azrael, who is actually the angel of death.
The real, yeah.
And he's also a fallen muse, which is great. I just love how they played around with all the different mythologies and just like mixed them into one big movie. It was like, maybe it's all a little bit of mix of here and there, and maybe that's what the truth of it is.
And then
It's
there's the
not just
golden
one
calf,
thing.
right? Where the golden calf is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the full idol worship. But I mean, again, the calf could be Taurus. It could have been just like age of Taurus at one point. So yeah, he's like so what I was our angel of death, because right, he decided to they lost their job. They lost their job as angels. And so I believe that's when Jason Lee takes over, because there is a
Yeah,
seat.
Azrael.
Yeah, and then he also
But
decided.
Azrael in the Bible is actually, or in Christianity is actually the angel of death. So
Yeah, yep.
it's actually really funny.
So in the movie Dogma, Loki used to be the angel of death, and that was his job. Um, and then he was convinced by Bartleby, which is kind of like an Adam and Eve, story lingering there a little bit. So Bartleby Bartleby convinced Loki to quit his position as the angel of death, because so Loki actually like was in charge of killing people, like the death, like he's angel of death. If you're about to die, Loki will show up. And he was getting sick of having to slaughter all these people. So Bartleby was like, why don't you quit your job? Fuck that man. So they are both banished to Wisconsin because he quit. Bartleby was like convinced him to. So it was a conspiracy situation. So they're banished to Wisconsin. Apparently a place worse than hell. But even hell has a story in Loki's. It's the woman, the female counterpart, the lover of Loki. So to me, Bartleby here is sort of like the female counterpart named Hel, Hel, maybe Helen, but instead it's Bartleby. That's my understanding, because Bartleby is like a harder character to kind of really pinpoint who he is. And so they find this loophole to get back into heaven, because he wants to have his role as the angel of death once more. That is the story of why these two, they just didn't want to work no more. He got sick of being the angel of death. Like, I'm sure when you show up, people are like, oh, fuck. Party's ruined. Loki's here. Angel of death here. You know what I mean? He probably it's probably just sick of like getting that, not being celebrated. So I get it. I get it. Into let's see here. Let's see. This goes into, I mean, because in the Norse like mythology, I just say that because Loki is the counterpart to Thor, right? Which is Zeus. So Loki to me would be Saturn, maybe, which is Kronos, which is usually associated with Satan, which is associated with the Black Angel of Death, like with death, time, Father Time, right? I don't know. I thought
Which
that
would be
was
Azrael.
right. And Loki's usually like a
I think
shapeshifter.
it's funny. I think it's funny that, Loki is, supposedly the angel of death in this movie, but Azrael is the demon that tries to get Loki, the angel of death, to kill himself and undo
Like a,
existence. Like,
like a
that is
true
the
demon.
funniest shit to me. Like, that is like, it's a joke. It's funny.
Because I mean, really, these two were angels, right? So they know like the balance of good, evil, whatever that is. But like his job was to like show up when people are. He's the angel of death, and so he's still an angel. And a real demon would get somebody else to do his dirty work for him, even an angel, right? Um, Here, let me bring into Azrael first here. Excuse me, so we can talk about him. There he is, Jason Lee. His
I'm a
best
fucking
roles are in the Kevin Smith movies, for sure. I gave him a pink suit. He's wearing a white one, but he's just straight up has horns. And his story is kind of really interesting too, because he's in a lot of ancient history. Let me get my notes here. So he's an archangel, and he is also a fallen angel. He used to be a muse, and so I've studied a little bit of like the 9 choirs of angels. So that could be, as an archangel, he'd be on the lower tier of the
Well, there
3.
are 9 Greek muses too.
Yeah, the 9 muses. So that would be like the 9 choirs, and probably similar. They're just named different. So I know probably different names. But he is the man behind the man who encourages the 2 fallen angels to take course. So he's the man behind the man, right? So he hired these other guys kind of, but he's behind Bartleby. He encouraged Bartleby to encourage Loki, right? So it kind of goes like this corporate this corporate ladder down the ladder. And if you think about like the chakras again, or Jacob's ladder, right? You ascend up and down, and even like with the like dirty work, you send it up or down.
So, Azrael, the angel of death and Azrael, it's not even anything evil. And the ferryman, and it's not anything evil. Or like, I guess Anubis would be one too, I guess,
Totally
if
Anubis,
you
yeah. So that
compare
would
it to
be.
Anubis.
Mhm.
And it's in everything, that it's not an evil entity.
Part of life and
It's
death.
Yeah, it's the journey of, it's just the guide to the other side, and to the next stage of your soul, from death to the beyond.
And
Kind of like
like,
a concierge for death.
yeah, well, like we talked Beetlejuice last show, right? And so like they go into the afterlife, and like it's an office and a waiting room and take a number, and because they're in a new place, they don't know, they need their handbook, like they just got to a new country, the currency is different. And so that's what Azrael has always been known to be, is separating the soul from the body, and yeah, helping them into the in between and into the afterlife. And so he wants to, again, like, what these angels get bored, man. They want to have fun, and so they are trying to test the boundaries of that, and like what they can get away with. I guess, because it's just like death and killing, and they are the death angels, and so they're over it. So you got to give them props a little bit. They're over killing. They don't even necessarily like to do it. Um, and as you brought up, like Anubis, like the whole Egyptian Book of the Dead, it's all about like this guide helping him, the transfer into the afterlife. instructed by Allah, which is all Allah, all of us, all of us. Yeah,
I
Jason
mean,
Lee.
yeah, and that
Go
all
ahead.
goes into the whole frequency of language too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if I died, and it'd be nice to have like, hey, welcome. What's up? Here's a friendship bracelet. I'll show you around. It'd be kind of nice. I would be mad if it was Jason Lee. I'm sure he'd make some jokes, make it funny.
You'd be like, "Oh yeah, here's your new digs. Here's where you live now. Here's your bedroom, and you know, it's what all you can do here." And it's kind of like what the Angel of Death is. It's not a bad thing.
And so then we even
It's
have
very sweet.
Metatron. Metatron is an interesting character for sure because Metatron is supposed to be Enoch. And I talked a little bit about Enoch with the Enochian, the angelic language, which I believe we are using today called English. English, because of the angles. So Enoch, there's the book of Enoch, which a lot of people have like picked up, supposedly a whole book that's been omitted from the current New Testament, Old Testament, whatever King Bible. But he was granted to see it as an angel. People like, okay, well, already we see Barbie and Loki. They left heaven, so then there's 2 seats left, right? So the tale is that Enoch is one of the only humans who's ascended without dying a human death, getting to be an angel, an archangel, and actually in this, to my understanding, he's just an archangel, which is one of the 12. But in this movie, he is a seraphim, which is one of the higher ranks of angels, and the voice of God, because being a human first, he can speak to humans of the frequency and the resonance we were talking about, being like unable to be fathomed.
So I think the seraphim are the ones with like that are just like a flutter of eyes and
That's
feathers.
yeah. There's the seraphim, the cherubim, and the Game of Thrones. So the game, so they're
Oh, they look
described.
like flames.
Yeah. So exactly.
Okay, they're the flame ones. I think maybe I'm thinking of another class. They all
No,
look weird. They all
absolutely
have
right.
different looks.
Yeah, because that was my point too. Was the fire? He in the scene he arrives in flames, right?
Yeah.
He comes from the ether and with the spark. So that's how he's entering the 3D from the 5D from the ether. He comes in as fire, and that's what you're saying. They're the ones that are always in flames, right? Because that's
Well,
what
it's
they.
like the Sacred Heart on Jesus. That's
Mhm.
the flame is the eternal flame of the soul.
And they're usually depicted as having actually like eyes, one over like their chests. And so the picture on the right is an old depiction of a seraphim talking to, I believe, Enoch. Um, Basically, yo, we got a job for you because he had the 3 sets of wings. So, and a sword. And he's got some
It's so
incense.
hard to keep track
Interesting.
of what looks like what.
Right? This is like an old art depiction of a seraphim. And the fact that he has like a sword and incense is also like a tarot card to me, right?
Are they the ones with like the multiple the like the 4 faces and like all the feathers and eyes and shit?
So, um, that would be like the wheel within the wheel with all the eyes and all the with the wings. That's not the seraphim. That is the Game of Thrones. 'Cause they're really fucking weird.
Wait, Game of Thrones?
They're called Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's quite awesome. A good book.
I thought they were Ezekiel wheels or something that you're thinking of. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of all this shit.
Well, Ezekiel will right again depends on like who's describing it, but the best book to actually, The Murder of Reality is good by Pierce Sabak. It talks about the angels. Also, the holographic.
Oh, it's the cherubim. It's the cherubim that look like that with the
Oh
different
yeah, sorry, the
faces.
cherub would make sense because they're a chariot. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's why I thought of Ezekiel because they're
Oh,
in
right here.
Ezekiel.
Wow,
The
I always open up.
cherubim are in Ezekiel.
Yeah, great. Like there we go. Like we figured out. So I opened
I've seen them.
this book.
I've seen them on shrooms.
Oh no. Oh nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's what I was asking.
Nice. No, that's I would like to hear more about. So in this
But
book,
it says
holographic
the
culture.
cherubim have. It says that the cherubim have like animal faces, but that's not how I see them. They morph.
Yeah, they're shapeshifters.
Yeah,
Every can
it's
even
it's
perceive
it's
them. Yeah.
wild.
So,
And
so
because they're on a different dimension, it looks like they're constantly morphing, but they're not. It's just that they're on a different dimension, and that's how the human brain
So I
perceives them
opened
is
up
as
wildly
moving.
randomly to the perfect page in this fucking book. It's insane. So it's actually talking about the temple of God, the throne chariot, the celestial vessel, the ophanim.
The orphanim? Is
Ophanim.
that what you said?
Ophanim.
Ophanim?
Ophanim. So it's the vessel, and so they're talking
Oh
about
yes.
the ophanim, the wheels, right? So this is also talking about the all the different angels. This is an awesome fucking book. You have to order this, I think, directly from Pure Sabak. I did. And so the throne chariot depicted as the ophanim, right? The wheels. This is the heavenly vehicle, the thrones, but is also the which symbolizes as an angel. These thrones that have the wheels, the ophanim, are considered an angel. And the host of the wheels. So these are vessels, but they usually like that's why all these gods with wings, especially the Sumerian, like Inky, they're always on a throne, right? They're always sitting on a chair that has a wheel. That's what they're talking about. This, yeah. And then that
The
also the
biblically
wheel within the
accurate
wheel
angels.
eyes.
That's what these are.
And to me, that looks like an orb, like a plasma orb that can come, like a spaceship,
Yes.
bring people down.
Especially with
Yeah.
yeah, Chris Bledsoe has taken a lot of videos and put them online, and that's what they look. A lot of them look like, especially
Yeah, to me, I feel like
the
it's
ones
like
with the newer cameras.
it's like an orb, but like I've been studying like chakras and what like our aura is. And it almost looks like they could take the aura and like make it into a shield and protective like flying vessel. Right? Come on, let's step it up. I really and so in this book too, so it's like the opening the throne chair again, this is in the book of Ezekiel in the Bible. So the care cherubim. They also talk about the cherubim, the cherion, the ophim. This is like what Metatron is kind of depicting as a seraphim. And I mean, it's debatable if he's archangel, seraphim, but these are different ranks of angels, and who are we to know? But Metatron being played by what's his name again? I have it here.
Alan Rickman.
So good. Has a great voice for, being the voice of God, right? And who's God in this movie but a woman, and she doesn't talk.
The divine feminine.
The divine feminine, exactly. Because when she does, it's too much.
The Sophia. The
The Sophia,
the source
exactly.
of
Yeah.
all. The mother of all creation, which Metatron uses, the line that Metatron uses. Right? Or the mother, or I think he says Oh, I can't remember what he says in that scene. Yeah, it's something like the mother of all creation or something like that. That's Bethany.
Well, and that goddess could come by Iana, depending on
Uh,
which culture, which country, which age.
yeah, Isis or Hathor.
Some people think,
Uh,
your Maya could be, but
there,
this.
I'm trying to remember the Sumerian one. Maybe it wasn't that on there. I think that it was. There's a Sumerian one too.
Yeah, Iana is the one. And again, like, what
Is
about
that the
Isis? Like,
Sumerian
won't
one?
fly. Iana has
Yeah.
like wings
There's
and
Kali. Kali is both the creator and the destroyer.
exactly any
So,
mom, anything that creates life, you can also destroy it just like by your body. I don't know. The next one. There we go. So here's just some other like kind of depictions of, well, the archangel Azrael is on money. Like, he is depicted as an archangel throughout history. Also, on the left with the red skeleton angel of death. Notice how he has many, many arms. His heart is up here. He's got the 2 fingers. And this is, again, a depiction of Azrael being depicted as the angel of death. So, yeah, he's the OG angel of death. Loki is associated, I believe, with Saturn. And so, like, these are like 2 different, one's a planet and one's a choir of angels, kind of both representing, I think, kind of the same thing. And they both have a similar job in the movie Dogma, right? Very interesting. It looks like, again, one of those seraphims with, like, many appendages and
yeah, just flying all over the place.
and so
Just a bunch of stuff mixed together.
and just the artwork that people do modernly, like based off of, like, these entities is quite amazing, because a lot of them are depicting them very similar to the old art. And so this one is also on the left. It's called the Angel of Death, number 1. It was painted in 1880. And then the one on the right is another depiction of what Azrael or even Loki. No, I think that one was Loki. Yeah. So here he looks like
Well, yeah, I would say it was
human
probably
boy with no
Loki
wings.
because of the trickster. Yeah, it looks
Shapeshifter.
more like a trickster spirit.
I mean, so
But
sometimes you get Matt
have you ever
Damon.
watched?
Go
Have
ahead.
you ever watched American Horror Story? Any of those seasons?
Mhm.
The Asylum season, they had the Angel of Death
Oh, that's right.
in that
Actually,
season,
yeah,
and
that's right. I stopped watching it.
and she was a very compassionate character in that show. She came and she was compassionate, and she's like, no, it's not your time yet. And it 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 was it was accurate to the historical Azrael. I enjoyed that interpretation, or that, yeah, I guess that interpretation of Azrael. I liked it.
Because, yeah, again, like, death is gonna come. Like, wouldn't you want it? Like, an angel's gonna come
Yeah,
down.
when do you want death to be
Everyone-
comforting? Like,
Yes, like, so, this 1880 painting, like, here, it's more of like a compassion. Got the Grim Reaper look, though, right? With the hood, angel wings,
yeah,
sloth. Um, but it's more compassionate there. So, I mean, so many different depictions. Same thing. And then at the end, Bartleby. Like, I was like, who the fuck is Bartleby supposed to be? Really, because it's not, you don't see this name a whole lot, right? So sometimes there's Bartholomew, who might, one of the apostles, the 12 apostles. But in this storyline, Bartleby was best friends with the angel of death, but they describe him as being a former Grigori of the Gregorians, right? Which means wakeful, the rebellious, the Celts, the Druids. To me, the Gregori, like the Gores, the Ghouls, the Gotis, the Gotis. When I
Well, I
see
think they could be compared to the Nephilim too, right?
totally, yeah,
Because
exactly.
they fell to earth and they mated with the humans, the Gregorians.
Right. And so exactly. So that's why sometimes like anything with that name gets associated with the rebellious angels who had sexual relations apparently with the women and made the Nephilim, which were supposedly giants and caused the great flooding, right? Which corrupted humanity. I mean, and in some stories, this happened at Mount Hermon, Mount Moriah, that famous mountain, Mounter, which we talked about before last week in Beetlejuice. And so there's all this art depicting like these like really handsome, angels having like just the best sexy time with these women. When to me, this is like mixing the DNA. In some stories, the fallen angels were maybe Orion. They're said to be metallic, that like when they had sex with them, it really hurt, that they were actually more robotic, which I talked about. And so there's a lot of interesting stories with this, like fallen angels having sex with, human, uh, earthly women and creating these Nephilim, because I think there's more to the story than just like just that. It can go all sorts of interpretations, especially when all the languages kind of like change and the words change. A lot to think about there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, even like the last Scion. I mean, are you familiar with that word?
Yes, I am. I am very
Okay.
familiar with the last Scion.
Okay.
Um, so the the last Scion, I have you ever heard of the Priory of Sion?
It's called The Priority of Scion. Is it a book?
The Priory of Sion.
The Friary.
It's
Oh,
no, hold on.
this is more of an elfin land.
It's here we go. Here's the story of Priory of Zion or Sion. Um, it it was founded. It was an order founded by Godfrey of Bouillon.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
it
In
was
99, just like the movie came out
uh,
in 99.
he was also one of the founders of the Knights Templar and with King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. It was Baldwin of Bouillon, I think. So it was Godfrey and all the founding members of the Knights Templar were Merovingians, and the Merovingian bloodline is said to be the bloodline of Jesus Christ, Mary Magdalene when when they had children and the family were eventually moved into France. And the Priory of Zion was basically a continuation or protectorate of the Merovingian or the bloodline of Christ.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, in the movie they say it's like his nieces and nephews, which that obviously that would be you know it would be stupid to think that a married couple didn't have sex and have more kids after their first kid, especially in that day and age. but it's also ridiculous to think that, uh, a spiritual leader didn't have a wife and have kids because, that's just what you did back then.
Well, due to the
And when you
dogma, that
go
was
in,
the story, so that the priests themselves wouldn't get married and have children and their own descendants. So like they were just basically they worked for the king or whatever consul, and then they wouldn't be able, like when they died, like their legacy is done, their bloodline is done. I think it was one of them, and also just like kind of more control. So yeah, so fucking dumb that like this whole like strict rules with spiritual leaders being able, I'm sorry, religious leaders being able to have a family when that's like what the message really was. Yeah, it's totally fucked up.
I mean, like, religious leaders always, got married, had kids and stuff. And uh, if when you look at the Gnostic texts of the Bible that are not in, the King James version or any of our Bibles, basically the lost texts, Mary Magdalene was basically Jesus's equal. And when you go into like biblical scholarship about the Gnostic texts and the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene and them, it's she was not she was the closest to Jesus out of everybody, closer to Jesus than the apostles.
You'd think
And
so. If like those are his boys, and like they, him and
and
Mary had some like
and he
intimacy
taught
and pillow
her,
talk.
yeah, and he taught her the biggest secrets of out of all of the people in his orbit. So that was his wife. Like it was like, it was like his spiritual counterpart, but it was also his wife.
And
Just
probably like
just like
twin flame, like very, very,
yeah.
like very powerful as well, like a uh, power couple. Yeah, and so that's why at the end of the movie, she has child, right? So she becomes not the last scion of this bloodline, but that
Well,
she
so
she's well with child.
this it's so when she saves the world, when Bethany saves the world by, basically killing God, making God appear again, um, she has to die because she is the last Scion, but she also has to be pregnant, she has to die to become a martyr, but she becomes pregnant because she is no longer the last Scion because she saved the world and the world continues, so she has to carry on the line.
How she just all of a sudden gets pregnant. Just like the story that has been adopted as far
No,
as,
it makes sense.
yeah,
It makes sense because
Jesus
when
being born of a Virgin Mary.
Well, it makes sense because when God heals Bethany's death or her wound, brings her back to life, when she's healing her wound, she's healing her whole body and she's also healing the effects of the infection that made her infertile. Therefore, she's pregnant through the power of God. It
I
makes sense. It makes sense to me.
think
But she also needs to
Jay
continue.
and Bob like tag teamed her, but they're like,
But
shh.
because the world doesn't end and the world continues, she has to continue on that bloodline because the last Scion is at the end of the world. So the end of the world doesn't happen. So she is no longer the last Scion. So she continues on
And
that
so
bloodline
in
to the
1999,
next end of the
not to be
world.
the end of the world, Y2K wasn't going to wipe it off.
Yeah.
And
Now let's get into Dogma 2 that they're going to be making that should be coming out in 2025.
they're big, of course they are. Or is that just like
Yeah.
a
So
AI?
Yeah, so Kevin Smith got the rights back for the movie, and he's making a sequel to Dogma.
Oh hell yeah.
And I think how they're gonna do it is so Bethany she becomes pregnant with a daughter at the end of Dogma. So it will probably be like another end of the world situation in the new movie, but with Bethany's daughter being the last scion. So it should be interesting to see how they work this story out in the very beginning of the age of Aquarius. And the end of the Kali Yuga. The end of the Kali Yuga is in 2025.
And James and Bob will continue.
So it will be wild for this movie to be coming out in
Mhm.
2025. Fingers crossed it does come out. And you know what? Because we have a whole year, and they haven't like started it yet. What do you want to bet they release it for Christmas 2025?
Oh, they definitely like already he was using numerology. The fact that it was in 1999, and when you looked up Scion, right? He was one of the founders that he founded the one of the Knights Templars in 1099. Again, that was so 100 years later he made the movie
Huh.
99.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Wow, like I can't wait. That's awesome. He's doing another one. So then we'll have to wait for that. And definitely I can't like we can go deeper dive into this as well. Alanis Morissette as God, beautiful, the feminine, divine feminine God. She doesn't talk
Yeah.
because she
Well,
passed
because of the
on.
voice of God thing, or else she would destroy all of humanity with her voice, with the frequency of creation. She created the whole unit. She spoke everything into existence.
And now she's
So to
yeah.
hear the voice of God would literally blow your mind.
That's magic, spell casting. Oh yeah. That's
Yeah, yeah.
after that's paragraph 1 of the Holy Bible in Genesis, isn't it?
I do want to go into the deleted scenes. That's not, yeah, in another episode too. So
Absolutely.
they're
Yeah.
like I said, it's a gold mine.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Kevin Smith did a good job. And we randomly you played it for like movie night, and then we decided to do a deep dive into it. So perfect
Yeah.
timing.
Well, yeah, and it's like I said, it's like one of my favorite movies since it came out, and I think it's their best movie by far because it's such a philosophical and just it's such a layered movie. So, yeah, I love talking about this movie. So
Probably
I
easier
talk
for
forever
other
about it.
people to watch this if they don't know Kevin Smith's like other work. Like if you like introduce them to Mallrats or like even Clerks, which are fucking great. Um, Dogma, at least, like I don't know. I think people can relate. I like that there's the Axis Mundi in the circle here for Dogma, the real cross. The real cross.
So if you guys haven't watched Dogma, uh, maybe there's people out there that have never heard of the movie because we are older and it came out in 99, so you never know. So we played it on An Artist Open Mic a few weeks ago, so you can go to the same channel and you can find it and watch it right there. And we'll
I think
be
it's still
coming back
streaming
for
on
a part two.
YouTube. 'Cause I watched it again this
Yeah,
week. Yeah, this is really fun.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks everybody for like pulling up, letting us like talk about Dogma, and because like it's been part of our life, and we need to just like have comedies about it. But there's so much symbolism. If you make art, why
yeah.
wouldn't you have every little thing like represent something, especially something like this?
And I think this is a good time of year, or actually a good time period to talk about the movie Dogma with going into the, you know, age of Aquarius and with, there's just a spiritual awakening happening right now, and this movie becomes more and more relevant the older it gets.
Breaking down those walls of Dogma, breaking down the bullshit and
Yep,
the closed-mindedness of it, and like we could all find our own spirituality without the dogma. Oh,
yep.
we didn't like start going into the dog part of it, but that could be another one. But yeah, This is good. We've been going for yeah, like hour 45 minutes.
Yep,
And yeah, this is our second episode of Mystic Mamas, me and Shelly. And so thank
yeah,
you, everybody. I guess
it's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night. Thanks, Shelly. Adios.